call this meeting of the Fremont County Board of Commissioners to order. If you'll please rise and join us for the invocation of Guy Burford, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we just come before you today and we just lift you up and we just praise you. Father, we ask you just for your blessings for this meeting today. Father, we just ask you for the blessings for all these people in this room. Father, we ask for blessings for our city. Father, we just thank you for all you've given. And we praise you and love you and pray this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you guys from the Connect Church. I don't know if I said that or not, but thank you.
You did not.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner McFall.
Present.
Commissioner Bell.
Present.
Commissioner Payne.
Present.
County Attorney Jackson.
Present.
County Manager Bryant.
Present.
Planning and Zoning Director Garrett.
Present.
Thank you. First item is approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I think our agenda has no changes this morning, so I move to approve as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Next is the consent agenda. We'll mention that number 3 is a resolution number that we did a zoning resolution last meeting. It'll be number 26. And that we are scheduling a public hearing for October 22nd. It is for another amendment to the Fremont County zoning resolution. And that will be at 10 o'clock on the 22nd.
That, Mr. Chair, make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. On to informational, administrative, staff and elected officials report. We'll start with County Manager, Ms. Sunny Bryant. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So just a couple of quick items that we're working on. So we continue to work on the 2020 budget. That will be available to the public starting October the 22nd. We'll actually have it on the county website. We'll be setting public hearings coming up as well. So if you have any questions throughout that process, feel free to reach out to me or anybody in my department. On Tuesday the 17th, I attended an area managers luncheon, so it's always good to meet with the various managers throughout the community. There's a lot of good, exciting things going on throughout Fremont County. And then we are continuing to work on the EPA Brownfields grant. So if you may know of a property that could potentially qualify, reach out to me. I can get you more information. There's also information on the county website, which is www.fremontco.com. And you can get, like I said, information from there. Reach out to me and I can get you that. And that's all I have for the manager's report.
Okay, thanks. And we'll move on to the sales and use tax report.
So the sales and use tax, the retail sales tax collections through the month of July. In July, they came in at $569,527, which is up $105,889 from last year. Year to date, we are up $391,592. And I just want to point out that I think the biggest chunk of that is the state is now requiring that online retail sales start collecting and remitting sales tax to whatever jurisdiction they're sending their products to. So I know that companies like Amazon, that's impacting them greatly, and I think that we're seeing that direct impact of those revenues are coming to the counties now. So on the second piece, the auto use tax collections in the month of August came in at $103,234, which is down $47,462 from last year. And year to date, we are down $29,686. And as we went through the budget process last year, we were very conservative with our numbers. So in comparison to where we had budgeted this year, we're actually still up about $39,000. So I still feel comfortable at where those numbers are coming in. For the the construction use tax came in at $16,861, which is down $44,283 from last year. Year to date, we are still up $100,852. And then on the lodging tax, so in July it came in at $9,285, which is up $9,097 from July of last year. And year to date, we are up $7,610. And then on the sheriff 1% sales tax, in June it came in at $379,000, which is up $70,593. Year to date, we are up $261,062. The auto use tax collections came in at $68,822 in the month of August, which is down $31,642 from last year. Year to date, we're down $19,791, but as I also indicated, we're still up in comparison to budget. And then last, the construction use tax collections came in for the sheriff at $11,240, which is down $29,466. Year to date, we're up $67,362. So all in all, things are looking very well. We're going through the budget process, so even though the numbers are up, we are still very conservative and looking forward because we certainly don't want to rely on these trends to continue. I'd much rather be happily surprised than be trying to figure out how to cut. So.
I think a lot of people were worried about when they started charging that online tax to the states. It's amazing how much we're missing. And I know that Amazon truck stops at my house every day for some reason. I don't know who's ordering that stuff, but. Okay. We'll take some elected officials or anyone else has anything to say.
Sure. Why are you looking at me?
I just figured you might have something to say.
Yeah, a couple of quick things. First, I just wanted to, I could talk about this for an hour or longer, so I'll keep it brief, but the three of us had the opportunity to attend meetings at the White House in Washington, D.C. A couple of weeks ago, and it was a really, really wonderful experience. We felt very welcomed there. We had the opportunity to speak with the Secretary of the Interior, David Bernhardt. We got great reports from a lot of different people who talked not only about what our president currently is doing, but about what different departments are doing and how those things really can make a difference for the people who live right here in Fremont County, which is the reason that we went. One of the things I think that was my biggest takeaway, they gave us a list of contact information for people in various departments when we are unable to have a satisfactory answer through our normal channels, which usually is through a senator or a representative, and we just don't feel as though our voices are being heard. We actually have a list of folks now who work directly with the White House for a whole variety of different departments, and we know how to use those contacts, and I think we probably will be doing that in the future. So I'm not sure if either of you had anything you wanted to mention about that trip.
I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'll probably steal your thunder.
That's all right. Go for it.
Okay. While we were there, Commissioner McFall attended some meetings. I came in a little bit later on PILT funding. PILT is payment in lieu of taxes. And what this is the federal government's lands that's within a county, they pay taxes in lieu of taxes if that land was public land. Well, in Fremont County, that's a really big deal because almost half the lands in Fremont County is federal lands. And I'll make it a little bit short here. Coming off of those, what we're asking for, Western Fremont or Western County Commissioners is asking for permanent funding of PILT because it's a year-to-year thing. And this is a real, like I said, a real big deal for Fremont County. And out of that, there's a bipartisan bill in Senate with Gardner and Bennett out of Colorado sponsoring that bill for permanent funding of PILT. And so keep an eye on that and see how that goes. And if you want to add any more. Like
So
I said,
yeah, I
you were
can
on that
segue
meeting.
into that. So we
Okay.
did all day long. There was commissioners from 7 southwestern states, and there was over 100 of us there. And we kind of ganged up on our senators and representatives. So we went. I was in a group with one more from Colorado and then a bunch of Utah commissioners, and we talked to every Colorado representative and senator, and several of them from Utah. Now, part of these we were preaching to the choir because they know how important this PILT money is to the counties, the rural counties, because of the federal lands. but they are the ones that can go in and push it. The problem with the PILT money is, in the western states, it seems pretty natural for us because we know what it's all about and how the money affects us or not getting the property tax for that money. In the eastern side of the United States, however, they don't have that much public land and stuff, so it's not a big deal to them. So these representatives on the western part of the United States have to sell it to those Easterners, which is kind of hard sometimes. But it looks like we're on the right track to do that. We had a lot of backing from all of those representatives that we talked to, the delegations from Utah and Colorado, and then we had, of course, the other states, New Mexico, Arizona, California, and Hawaii, Utah. So it was I believe it was a good day. We made some good progress, and like I said, immediately after our meetings, they introduced this legislation. So if they can get that passed, it'll really help the rural counties, and I believe we'll be able to count on it rather than having to hold our breath every year to see if they're going to pass this or not. I believe you had one more thing.
I do have one more thing I would like to just briefly discuss. Just before our meeting, our friend Councilman John Hamrick from Canyon City stopped in my office, and he brought in a new scam that I haven't seen yet, and I just wanted to take a brief minute to say, you could be getting something that looks like a check in the mail because they're trying to sign you up as a mystery shopper. This looks as legitimate as anything I've ever seen in my entire life. So John's already, he did a little bit of background research. He's already reported to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, to Canyon City Police Department. They are aware of what is happening. I can see a lot of folks completely being drawn in by this. So I just want to say, if you receive a check with someone asking you to be a mystery shopper, don't deposit that check because it's going to hurt you in the end. So trying as always to protect our citizens.
It's unfortunate. There's many of those scams out there.
There are. So thank you for this, John.
Yeah, thank you, John. Anyone else have anything to say? Here, board. Okay, now we will go to citizens who wish to address the commissioners. This is where you can say something if you want to, Bob, of matters not scheduled on the agenda. We're going to try to keep these to about 3 minutes apiece. And at first, I will call up Frank Rhodes.
I'd like to give you this so everybody has a copy.
Thank you.
Understands what I'm saying. It's nothing fancy. I just want you to understand. I'm not a public speaker, so if I make a mistake, I have it there for everyone to read. Thank you, commissioners and everyone else up here. What I'm discussing today is our project, the Phantom Canyon Streets on County Road 67. We've been working on this. We proposed it to the county in September of 2017. With the planner, we purchased the property and moved forward with our project since March of 18 per county regulations. What we are building is regulation 1.5176 of the Fremont County Code, travel trailer park. Any open area other than a street, alley, or public place used exclusively for parking or temporary storage of 2 or more trailers containing living and or sleeping accommodations that are designed and used for public travel. Number 15174, trailer space. An area for parking of a single trailer for the exclusive use of its occupants. This is our only customer. Section 15173.1, travel trailer self-contained. A trailer that would be operated independently of connections to sewer, water, or electrical systems. It contains a water flush toilet, lavatory, shower, and bath, kitchen sink, all of which are connected to water storage and sewage holding tanks located within the trailer. After meeting all requirements for 18 months without discussion, we are now reclassified as an campground. How did this happen and why did it happen? Please note, the only reason our zoning application states and campground is we were instructed to change this by the staff against our objections, as this is not factual and would be confusing to the reader. We are not and never have been Section 1540, campground, a tract of land in single ownership that has been developed or is intended to be developed into tent sites. We have never thought or discussed tents because the state has free sites just up the road in Phantom Canyon. Tent sites, 15.168, a tract or parcel lot within a travel trailer park and campground designed for accommodation of 1 or more tent sites for temporary or seasonal occupancy. We request to only be held to the 1.5 regulations for travel trailer park. It is clear by our actions and all submittals for the last 2 years that we are clearly not a campground and and asked to be removed from the standards that include campground requirements such as 411 for the travel trailer park and campground zone district. This district is established for the purpose of providing parking spaces for trailers, tents, recreational cabins, and park models that are designed for temporary occupancy. For the record, we will not allow tents, recreational cabins, park models, regardless of use, which is also lumped into the travel trailer park and campground zone district. Having met all requirements months ago, we requested the board's permission to allow us to apply for permits, open our business now, conditionally on, of course, that we comply with all of the board's decisions after today. We are available at any time to answer questions. Please find the third letter from another opinion on our project from the Fremont County Department of Health. There's also a third opinion on our project. We await your answers. Frank Rhodes, Debbie Frederick, and Mitchell Slayton. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we also have Christine Everett. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you just announced, I'm Christine Everett. I spoke at your meeting on August 27th, and at that time I addressed the poor conditions of County Road 84. As a brief background for why I've returned today about the same issue, there was road maintenance performed on August 21st and 22nd, shortly before that meeting. I told DOT and you that we were grateful that there had been work done, and it was very much appreciated. However, that particular maintenance only covered the first 1.5 miles of approximately 4 miles of road, and it started to fail within 2 weeks, and now the road is in extremely poor condition again. That August grading was needed because the July grading had not held up. When I asked people in our community about their opinion of the current situation, I have repeatedly heard, "We can't believe it went so bad so quickly, and something needs to be done, and shouldn't the pot farm and the oil company pay to fix the road?" At your August meeting, you said you would get back to me, but we couldn't wait. I had to be here today. I contacted DOT last week by email, and Mr. Adamick advised me on September 18th that the next scheduled work would not be to about 2 weeks out. To our surprise, coming in this morning, they're out there working, so we appreciate that. The question still is, though, are they going to do just another 1.5 miles, or are they going to do all the road? DOT keeps telling me, and everyone else, when they call in to complain, that the road fails because of speeding. I don't speed, so I don't know why they keep coming back to me with that. The shift change drivers coming to and from Maggie's farm do appear to be the main abusers of the speed limit, and DOT did finally put a speed message board out last Thursday. I doubt it really will make a difference. Ironically, some people are driving fast to go over the bumps and the washboarding rather than bounce and slip at a slower speed. Others are driving way below the posted speed of 30 miles an hour to avoid damage to their vehicles, and then during shift change, you cannot see other vehicles because of the heavy dust. I have called the Fremont County Sheriff to report about the speeding, as well as others. Speeding is not the only cause of our deterioration out there. The heavy vehicles and equipment from Fremont Petroleum using the road contributes to the damage. And in fact, the worst portions of the road are where those vehicles and equipment travel. Once Maggie's farm started operation, the combination of their traffic and the oil company has created the tremendous overload on our rural gravel road. Plus, there are over 80 families using the road. Multiply that with travel for work, school, etc., by multiple family vehicles on multiple trips. Additionally, Lock Mountain subdivision has another 35 non-resident owners who often come out to their properties, using the road, of course. That is much more traffic than the road was ever expected to accommodate. I don't believe DOT and you realize how much usage there is on County Road 84. The traffic count conducted a while back did not capture all of the fracking tanks and trailers and oil rig equipment being brought to the sites. There are residents who have their homes and properties for sale, and they have encountered issues with the prospective buyers and realty agents about the conditions of the road. Some have contacted DOT asking for help and maintenance. DOT is always defensive of their work. I don't blame them. You know, if somebody complained about my work, I'd be defensive too. But the point is, whose responsibility is it to determine the changes for the better? It just can't remain status quo. Most importantly, last Tuesday, a resident had an emergency that required ambulance service, and there were concerns expressed by the emergency responders to the patient and her family about the condition of the road. That's a serious issue. I spoke with someone at Florence Volunteer Fire Department, and they confirmed that their response time was slowed and the transport had to be slowed due to the road conditions. The bottom line that I addressed you on August 27th is the same today. The type of maintenance, service, work, blading, grading, whatever you want to call it for County Road 84 has not kept up with the changes in volume and usage and types of vehicles. I gave you extensive background on August 27th, and I'm trying to learn still how and where the grant money that in 2014-15 for Coal Creek and was supposed to have part of 84 included, where that money was used, and none of us recognized that it ever happened for us.
Okay, ma'am, I need to wrap it up, please.
There is, I'm sorry?
Can you wrap it up, please?
Okay, I'm just about finished.
Okay.
The dust mitigation efforts in the summer when Fremont Petroleum came in 2014 and 15 was extensive. I don't know, we've got dust out there terribly right now. I'm asking for a review or study or engineering to look at the differences and find a resolution that will give over 80 families who reside and use that road and others safe and durable access to their homes and properties. I'm not alone in this pursuit. I have collected letters from many residences who also want a solution, and I will deliver them to your office today. Some have inquired if a community meeting with Commissioner Bell would be helpful. I'd like to ask if you've ever driven out on our road, or even recently. We need help. And I invite you to come out. I'd be willing to do a drive along. The road's gonna look pretty good at the beginning today. I don't know what the rest of it will look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Bob, did you want to? If you'll, Bob, if you'll come up here and fill out a slip for us too, please.
I just have a question about the DC trip. Was there any discussion regarding the move of, I believe it's the Department of the Interior?
BLM?
Yeah.
BLM, yes, there was.
From DC to out
Yep,
here?
they're vigorously working on it right now.
That's all.
Yeah, they've settled on, they own a building in Grand Junction, and they're working on getting people moved out here. Yep.
Perfect. Thanks.
That's going to be pretty exciting too. All right, we'll move on. We have no old business. We'll move on to new business. The first item of new business is a resolution appointing a veteran service officer for the term of from October 10th, 2019 to January 10th, 2022. I guess this, we'll start off by talking about Al a little bit. Al Augustine has been our veteran service officer for several years, and he's decided to retire. So we appreciate anything he's had everything he's done for us. Do you guys have anything you want to say about Al or anything? And then we'll read this.
Of course
resolution.
I do.
Al, you want to come up?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if Al, you would come front and center. Al was an unknown to me, at least, when he came to work for the county, but I got to know him relatively quickly. I believe I was serving as chairman when he started working for us, and he came in every month with his report that talked about all of the contacts that he had made, people he had dealt with, the real issues and the real problems that our veterans here in Fremont County have. I was so happy to look at his monthly reports and to be able to see how much Al actually was helping our local veterans. He would help them receive services that they actually had no idea that they were entitled to. He was helping them to receive additional retirement payments or some kind of medical issues, whatever the problem was. Al was always there to have conversations, to help those folks, and he literally brought thousands and thousands and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of new dollars into Fremont County through his work with our veterans. And Al, I just want to say to you, I know what a difference you have made to so many people in our community, and sir, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Job well done.
I thank you for the opportunity to have worked here since 2013. I've really enjoyed it, but I'm going to be 72 in November. It's time.
I don't think any of us can argue with you. We're very sad to see you go, but we're very happy that you're getting ready to start a new life in retirement, and we wish you nothing but the best.
And I'm going to stay in Kansas.
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you
Al.
so much.
All right, I'm going to read this resolution. Whereas the Fremont County Board of County Commissioners is authorized by Colorado Revised Statute 28-5-801-805 to establish a county veteran service office and to appoint a county veteran service officer for such county. And whereas on December 26, 2017, the Board of County Commissioners approved Resolution 39, Series of 2017, which appointed Albert Augustine as a Fremont County Veteran Service Officer for a term ending January 14, 2020. And whereas Albert Augustine has performed well in his position as a Veteran Service Officer and has notified the Board of Commissioners of his intent to retire effective October 10, 2019. And whereas the Board of Commissioners expressed deep appreciation for the service of Albert Augustine, for the service Albert Augustine has provided to veterans of Fremont County and Custer counties, and wish him good health and happiness in his retirement. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners has conducted a search for a new Veteran Service Officer by advertising for interest applicants to fill the position of Veteran Service Officer, interviewing interested applicants, and seeking the advice and counsel of the chief officers of each post of regularly established and existing veterans organizations in Fremont County. And whereas the Fremont County Board of Commissioners has determined that Martin Peck, an applicant for the position, is well qualified based on his education, experience to perform the duties of County Veteran Service Officer, and is confident that Martin Peck, sorry, Martin, will successfully perform the duties and assume the responsibility of Veteran Service Officer, and should be appointed to serve in such position for completion of the current term of Al Augustine, and thereafter a 2-year term of office commencing January 14th, 2020, and ending January 10th, 2022. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners for the County of Fremont that Martin Peak, is hereby appointed to the Veteran Service Officer for the completion of the current 2-year term commencing October 10th, 2019, and ending January 14th, 2020, and thereafter for a full 2-year term commencing January 14th, 2020, and ending on January 10th, 2022. The duties and responsibilities of the office shall be set forth in the Colorado State Statute and may be requested from time to time by the Board of County Commissioners. The effective date of this appointment shall be October 7th, 2019. And we have Martin here, correct? Would you come up, sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for your interest in this. I know, as Al did, there's a lot of veterans that don't know where to go and whatnot, and the way I understand it in the interview process, they feel that you're going to do a great job of helping veterans in the community, and I appreciate that myself tremendously.
Yeah, I was not part of that interview committee, but I will tell you that several folks who were incredibly excited after they had the opportunity to interview you with your attitude, the things that you already know. We think it's going to be a relatively smooth transition from Al to you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chair, with that, I have a motion.
Okay.
All right, I move to approve Resolution Number 27, appointing the Veteran Services Officer for a term from October 10th, 2019 through January 10th of 2022. And that new officer is Martin Peak.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 27, appointing Martin Peak as a Veteran Service Officer for term October 10th, 2019 through January 10th, 2022. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Welcome aboard, sir.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark.
All right, on to item number 2. He's chomping at the bit down there. Presentation of the 2019 audit report. We have Kyle Logan here from Logan and Associates. Good
That's
morning.
actually should be the 2018.
Or
and
2000,
I
yeah, it should
apologize.
be 2018, yeah.
Yes.
We haven't done 19 yet. Huh? We're ahead of time.
Yeah, we just get ahead of the ball.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. My name's Kyle Logan. I am the owner of Logan and Associates, certified public accounting firm. I'm the county's auditor, and as you mentioned, I am here to present the results of our audit of the county's financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2018. And so you have two documents that you received. One, the thicker one, that's the financial statements, and the other one is what I refer to as our management letter. And so I'll just briefly go over our audit process, briefly go over some highlights in the financial statements, and then conclude with going over the management letter. And so our audit process is primarily in two phases. The first phase is where we came and met with the county, met with different departments of the county to obtain an understanding of internal controls, policies, and procedures throughout the county as far as reporting the financial activities of the county. And so in that process, we kind of started that late January, and in doing that, we picked samples of checks and warrants of the county. We picked samples of payroll transactions. We also looked at certain revenue streams of the county in order to determine, okay, is there a proper approval process? Are you following the policies and procedures put in place to make sure that the amounts that are being dispersed out of the county have supporting documentation and the amounts are appropriate and correct. We also included in this first phase our testing of county's federal expenditures. So the county receives between 6 and 7 million of federal expenditures. Of course, the majority of that is from the Department of Health and Human Services. And so the county's required to have more of a compliance audit of certain programs. And so that's also included in our phase 1 of going through that process. Then the second phase, which we began in April, that's where we concentrate more on the financials, more on the numbers. That's where we confirm certain balances with outside third parties. You know, all the cash and investments held by the county is what's being reported in the county records, what the third parties' financial institutions say. Also confirming, certain revenue streams with the state and other agencies of revenues that flow into the county. And then we also do a lot of inquiry of finance staff and other staff throughout the county to say, okay, do these numbers make sense? Are we comfortable with them? And we also do a lot of analytical, comparing prior 2017 numbers with 2018 numbers. And so in doing all this process, then, that gives me a comfort as your auditor in order to issue an opinion. And so for the year ended December 31st, 2018, our opinion on the financial statements is an unmodified opinion. Well, what does that mean in layman's terms? That means it's a clean opinion. That is the best that the county can receive from an independent auditor. Also, what that tells you as the Board of Commissioners, that tells you that all the numbers in this document, all the supporting footnote disclosures in this document are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles for a local government entity. Okay? During our process, do we make significant adjustments to the accounting records, and this year we did not. So that also tells you that the numbers you see throughout the year are the numbers in the final audited financial statements. That tells you also, as the Board of Commissioners, that policies and procedures over the accounting records that have been put in place by either you guys or previous commissioners are being followed. Okay? So, the financial statements, they're primarily six parts in the financial statements. Following our independent auditor's opinion is the MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis, which is more of a narrative of some highlights that have happened over the past year. Following the MD&A, basic financial statements, and this includes several areas. The government-wide financial statements, which are pages 1 and 2. The fund financial statements, pages 3 through 5. Fiduciary statements and activities, page 6. And then followed by the footnotes, pages 7 through 29. So your government-wide financial statements, those reports are on what we call a full accrual basis of accounting. So it's very similar to a business, okay? The fund financial statements, that's what you're used to seeing throughout the year. That's all your individual funds of the county shown either in the major funds or in the back pages where the smaller funds are all combined together. So following the footnotes, required supplementary information. This is primarily your general fund budget and your what we call the major special revenue funds. And then the supplementary information, which that includes all the other what we call non-major funds, combining schedules, information on the fiduciary activities as well. And then we get into the compliance section. This is where I was talking about the single audit and the federal awards. So that's pages 45 through 53. Certain things we have to look at and report on. Internal controls, compliance over major federal programs. And then the last 2 pages is the local highway finance report, which is required by the state for all local municipalities receiving local highway monies. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of the financials. Give you a few highlights on starting with page 1. On a full accrual basis, the county's total assets are approximately $65 million. Of that, $17 million is in cash and investments. Approximately $8 million are in receivables, meaning monies you're going to collect in the upcoming year that's owed to the county. And then wrapping it up is the approximately $39 million of capital assets. That's capital assets, that's all your property and equipment, your infrastructure throughout the county. Your total liabilities are about $35 million. Approximately $24 million of that is the debt that the county has incurred over the years, and a small amount of payables, meaning obligations you owe to outside parties of about $3 million, and followed with just some other small deferred unearned revenues that are going to be recognized in the following year, and other accrued liabilities. Your net position, that's the equity of the county, is approximately $30 million. Well, of that, $15 million of it, almost half of it, is tied up in capital assets. And that is the capital asset number, that's more of a net number. So the debt that's in your liabilities is offset against the capital assets, which that's how they were acquired and constructed. Okay? $6 million of it is restricted, so those are outside restrictions, not necessarily restrictions that you, the Board of Commissioners, have put on the monies, but from outside third parties. And then $8 million is unrestricted, so that's about 27% of your net position, which that's actually pretty good. Okay. Page 2, this is more of your income statement of activities. Total expenses for the year was about $37 million. which is about a $800,000 decrease from 2017. Your revenues total was approximately between 38 and 39 million, and of that, about 20 million in all the tax type revenues. Other charges and fees are about 8 million, and then your grants are about 11 million. And so for the year, you increased your net position, or net income was about 1.6 million over 2017. So that's about a 6% increase in your equity. Okay. So then pages 3 and 4. Like I said, this is more what you're used to seeing. These are your funds. And just I'll highlight the general fund. So page 3 is a balance sheet. General fund, your total assets are 11 million. Liabilities against those assets are 6 million, leaving a fund balance or equity of about 5 million. And of that 5 million, 3.9 million is unreserved. So that means there's no strings on it. It's available to carry forward into the next year's budget, and that's about 78% of your fund balance for the general fund. So your general fund has a pretty healthy unreserved fund balance. Okay.
We are very conservative.
And it shows. Okay, and then on page 4, this is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, your income statement. And so again, the general fund, total revenues were about 19.3 million. Expenses and transfers out to other funds about 19.2 million. So you just had a slight increase in the general fund. You know, not a concern of ours as we were going through. But as I mentioned, overall, you had over all your funds about 39 million for the year in revenues, about 37.8 million in expenditures, and net income of about 1.2 million. And as I mentioned earlier, the federal grants, about 6.9 million of that is coming from federal sources, either directly, most of yours are being passed through state agencies. Okay. All right. So I know I kind of went through that fast. Any questions on the financials? And I'll tell you, if you do come up with questions, let Sunny know. She can get a hold of me, and we will find an answer. So the next document, what I refer to as a management letter. So our professional standards require certain things that we're required to communicate to you, the governing board of the county. And so that's what the purpose of this letter is. And so the first two, about 2 1/3 pages, that tells you what our responsibilities as your auditors are. Also tells you if we had any issues while performing the audit, or difficulties, and as I tell a lot of my clients, if we had issues, you would have heard from me before today, so that's always a good thing. And so then, this is also a vehicle for us to talk about things that we've noticed while performing our audit, either best practices, rooms for improvement, things that you know the county should consider. And it's obviously up to you guys to decide whether you want to change any of the information or the policies or procedures that we talk about in this. But again, these are things we bring up that did not require us to change our opinion on the financial statements, but there's some things that we like to bring to your attention to say, hey, take a look at this. And so as we do the next year's audit, we will always follow up with these items. And another thing, as part of our audit, we have IT consultants come in and look at the computer systems, the controls over systems, you know, password access, things like that, security over the systems. Now each year, we kind of divvy it up to different departments so that, because you can't cover all the departments in 1 year. So this first year, we had a few things that we are mentioning here, but just a few highlights there. The first thing, you know, and you guys are aware of this. I know Sonny and I talked about it. The self-insurance fund, you know, it continues to, as far as the fund balance, continues to decrease. And over, you know, the past 3 years, you've had about a 70% decrease in that. So that's something you guys need to take a look at. Of course, when you're self-funded, you know, if you have a few events, medical events that happen, then, you know, you can have spikes and valleys in that. So, and maybe that's what you're going through. But that's something, you know, you just want to keep an eye on as time goes, so that that fund doesn't get to a deficit balance in the future. The next thing, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we select different cash disbursements transactions. And so going through that, you know, a lot, and I'll tell you, this is something common with a lot of my clients, is that when, you know, staff turn in expense reports to be reimbursed, well, a lot of times we saw where the staff was the one approving their own expense reports. So we'd just like to see another level in there. Now, going through that, we did not have any issues with any of the reimbursements. They all were appropriate and related to county business. So that's one thing when we see something like this, we say, okay, the next step, well, were there anything unusual there? We did not see anything there. So again, just more tighten up some things over those primarily. But looking at all of the other cash disbursements and warrants, and you know, there was proper approvals, proper support of documentation. So county sheriff's office, you know, I went out and visited with the detention center, looking at you know, their software there as far as keeping track of funds coming in, primarily related to inmates coming in and going out. And again, the software there, I know going through it was kind of difficult at times to pull some history reports. So I think Captain Hamill is looking into that, and we'll see, you know, we'll follow up again this coming year. The IT system, as I mentioned, there are several things there. Again, nothing of major concern that would cause us to change our opinion on the financials, but just looking at things, you know, user access and passwords, going through, finding that, you know, you have a lot of people in certain departments, and in some cases, the access of the users was not limited. Pretty much everybody had the same access. So, you know, we feel that that's a risk, and so just to take a look at that and make sure that those are in place and updated. You know, the one thing they recommend, you know, passwords. We got passwords for everything these days, and so I know our IT people, she usually says 3 to 6 months change your passwords, and she said at a minimum do it annually, maybe at the first of every year. Have people update their passwords. Okay. Some other areas we noted, you know, this and this is something that's been ongoing since the implementation of the new accounting software, and so I know we kind of inherited it, but in the clerks and treasurer's office, you know, when they're putting the information into the system, a lot of the accounts, the way it's reported in their system, is not easily interfaced with the finance, and so you have the same type of descriptions of revenues, but as far as the accounts and communicating back and forth, they're different numbers, and so hopefully as time goes, we can get that more in line so that the reconciliation and processes don't take as long. And also when the state delivered drive system comes out, we'll see what that has. So hopefully there'll be some improvements there as far as document retention and supporting documentation and reporting. So again, just some things to consider and you know, determine if these are important enough to change. And then the last one, we talked about this related to motor vehicle and just the process there of, you know, there's a lot of activity that goes through there. and just maybe tightening up some controls there, you know, if it's deemed possible. You know, there's always several different ways to do something. So when we look at it from an outside independent party, you know, we're saying, hey, you got some areas here you need to improve on to lower your risk and protect everybody in that department as well as the county. So that's what I have as far as comments. You know, in conclusion, I want to thank Sonny and Charlene. They had the hard part of trying to answer questions, and all the staff of the county who we worked with, because really, you know, sometimes we're asking questions about stuff that happened a year to 18 months ago. And so they really did make the audit process, in my mind, smooth and pretty efficient. So we really thank them and thank everybody at the county who we worked with, because there's a lot of people, and we really appreciate it.
Cool. Well, thank you. Encouraging when we hear a report like that it's good and we're not in the hole, we're profitable. It's always a good thing, as you said, conservative.
You going to say anything?
Yeah, and I actually, so we just switched to Kyle this year as a new auditor, and I just appreciate the thoroughness that you had in coming in. We had him review some things that the departments had actually indicated had never been looked at before, and so I appreciate your firm and all that you've done just to kind of make sure we're on track. We had a lot of discussion, and most of the things that he's actually recommending we've already incorporated, and so I appreciate you just reviewing that and having very good recommendations, and you've been very good to work with. And I also appreciate all that Charlene's done. She's helped me out immensely the last couple of years on the audit, and so yeah, we have a very good group, and everybody's been very good to work with, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, Mr. Chair, the past 15 years, 4 different entities, I've listened to audit reports, and always amazed me. This to me seems like to be like one of the number one things that taxpayers ought to take a look at, that we're spending money fiscally responsible, and we have money to grade a county road that might be in disrepair, you know. And I thank Sonny and Charlene and the whole staff there for keeping us fiscally responsible. And Sonny is, we like to say, well, we're very conservative, but actually she's the one that says, you know, we've got to be conservative here. Yeah, you're right. Okay. So with that, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the 2018 audit report.
I'll second that, just with my thanks as well for the job that you have done with us. But I think we would be remiss just a little bit if we didn't thank Sonny and her staff as well, because not only have these changes that you were recommended already are being put into effect, but since Sonny came on to the county as our financial manager, things have changed dramatically here for Fremont County. The processes, the procedures that we use, I think we are all so much more comfortable now with actually being able to understand what's happening with finances in Fremont County. So she's really been a breath of fresh air. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the 2018 audit report. Any further discussion? I think we do need to thank all the departments too for following procedures
Absolutely.
that are in
Yes.
place, because that makes everything go smoother and makes everything work.
Great point.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle.
And just one more note to the public, we actually will have the audit posted on the county website, so if you would like to go in there and review the audit, that should be up by the end of today, or at least by the end of this week at the latest. So that'll all have that information. If you have any questions as you're reviewing it, because I know sometimes these things can be a little bit complicated, feel free to reach out to our department. We can certainly answer those.
Thank you, Sonny. All right, on to item number 3. It's OPC 14-009, Green Around You Transfer of Ownership. They're requesting a transfer of ownership for department file OPC 14-009, Green Around You to Penrose Management CO Limited. Property is located at 890 7th Street in Penrose and owned by 7th Street LLC. We have Edward Vasquez. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Members of the board, I'm Edward Vasquez. I'm here Commissioners representative for Green Around You. And we are requesting a change of ownership from the business entity Green Around You to Penrose Management CO Ltd. This change is sort of structural. In July of 2019, the MED made some changes to the medical cultivation code, and in ways that affected us is, one, we have traditionally had 2 licenses operating this facility. Currently, the MED is in the process of collapsing those licenses into 1 license. Secondly, the vertical integration requirement of the medical code has gone away, and now medical cultivation facilities are more similar to recreational cultivation facilities in that they can operate as independent businesses. So in order to meet the changes and better comply with the forward-moving progress of the MED, we ask that the commissioners will grant our change of ownership to a new LLC.
All right. You guys have any questions right now?
Not right yet.
Sean, can you give us your report, please?
Okay, so the department has reviewed the application and found it to be a true representation as stated herein. All required submittals have been met, and everything should meet all the Fremont County licensed medical marijuana business regulations.
Okay, so this is doing nothing but changing the name of ownership on an existing license.
That's correct.
Okay,
I have no questions. It seems pretty straightforward.
entertain a motion.
Sure, Mr. Chair, I move to approve OPC 14-009, Green Around You, transfer of ownership.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve OPC 14-009, Green Around You, transfer of ownership. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell,
Aye.
Commissioner Payne,
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 4 is selection of an engineering firm for the Grandview Avenue Bridge replacement, Fremont County Road 105 and Grandview Avenue. Sunny.
Yes, so our Department of Transportation applied for an off-system bridge grant, and we were awarded that grant, and so we are looking at doing the design work for the Grandview Avenue Bridge. So that's one of the bridges that shows up on our annual bridge inspection report, and it's definitely at that time where we need to actually do the full replacement. So we have gone through the process to solicit some proposals from qualified contractors that actually meet, or qualified engineers that actually meet these CDOT standards. And so there's very specific standards that they have to meet. Through that process, we received 3 engineer firms that were interested in working through this process, and the 3 of them, we actually had a little committee that got together and reviewed all of those proposals, and have come up with one recommendation. And so the group is actually recommending that SEH is the company that we work with. They had a very thorough proposal. Their proposal met all of the minimum requirements, and we feel that they would be a really good firm to work with. One of the 3 firms had actually indicated that they didn't feel they could do the process within the budget, and so that firm was eliminated through that process. And out of the 2 that were remaining, we've done work in the past with SEH, and we're very confident that they'll be able to perform what we're looking for.
So the grant was just for design and engineering, is that correct?
That's correct. So we're looking at that process this year. It actually could take up to about a year to a year and a half to finish that entire process. Once we actually get those design numbers and everything finalized, then we will apply for another grant to actually do the construction of that. And so this is one of those things, as we talk about budgeting, we've been setting aside money every year for the matching funds for both of these grants, because both of them do require the local match. And so we're definitely trying to make sure we're working through this process and having everything to where hopefully in the next 3 or 4 years we'll be able to actually do the replacement and the construction and everything on that.
Replacement of a bridge is not cheap.
No.
Not at all, not even the engineering.
It's pretty horrifying when it gets right down to it.
So I'll backtrack just a little bit. I spoke about PILT funding earlier in the meeting, and years ago, back even when Ed Norton was a commissioner, these commissioners had decided to put $50,000 a year aside from PILT funding just for bridge replacement, and this is the part of the money we are going to use for this engineering and design work. So to let you know where the funding is coming from is a decision we made several years ago.
It's the match funding for the grant, right?
For the match funding, yes.
Okay, so you recommend engineering firm SEH.
Yes.
Okay. With that, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve SEH, which actually stands for Short Elliott Hendrickson Incorporated, for the Grandview Avenue Bridge replacement design and engineering work.
Second.
Has been moved and seconded to approve engineering firm SEH for the design of Grandview Bridge replacement engineering. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, on to item number 5, approval of contracts for QLES for October 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. Do we need to do these in separate or all together, Brenda, with the 2 contracts?
I do them separate.
Do it separately? All right, so let's do the first one first, QLES. Mr. Grantham, you want to tell us what that is?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So when I took office back in January, I started looking at wait times in the motor vehicle office, and I toured a whole bunch of motor vehicle offices in some of the rural areas that we have and along the I-25 corridor. And the consensus that most of them were talking about is wait times during lunchtime or at the end of the day or near the end of the week, during the busy times where you have to actually renew or get new titles in motor vehicle office. So I started looking at some queuing systems that would allow me to remove the numbering and lettering system, where I've gotten many complaints that it's confusing of what that is really truly for. So in my research, I found I looked through a few companies, but one of them that stood out was QLES. What this company is going to do for us would be it allow you to have a wait time system tracker online. So when you want to know if motor vehicle is busy, log on to the website. There it is. You'll see if we're actually busy or not. Wait times could be 5 minutes or it could be an hour. During lunchtime, it does get pretty busy, especially during our busy time between right after you get your taxes done till about September. So we're looking at that. They, along with the wait time system, things have been upgraded since then. They now have an app for your phone. You can check in and reserve your spot in line on your phone. So if you're wanting to travel from the West End or from Penrose, you can check in, and on your way in, you grab a cup of coffee, and then they'll send you a text message saying you have 15 minutes before you're ready to be served. So you can go in there and wait. You can also do this by a computer, but for those of us who don't use technology as much as we love our new phones, you can actually go inside the office and reserve your spot in line. And we're going to set it up where you can just put in your first name, so they call you by name, not by number, or not by letter. Now you won't need to you won't have to listen for your number or try and remember it, or even if you lose it, as what happens to most people, including myself on occasion. So they'll just call you by name now, which works out tremendously for our office. The intent of this is, say you go into motor vehicle and you have issues with your paperwork, well, now you can make an appointment with that same clerk the following day, or if you need a week, to collect all the signatures. Now you won't have to retell your story to a whole new clerk. You can go back to the same one. They already know what you're there for, know what you're missing. We get you serviced and get you out of there because we all have lives. We have better things to do than sit in motor vehicle. We also, it allows me to put into the queue system veteran services. I've been floating this around for quite a long time. I want to serve our veterans first. They have served us, they protected us, so why not give them some benefits too? So this will allow us to have a button or a way to check in as a veteran, and we can make sure that you're at the top of the queue. We're also, with this, it'll allow us to stagnate the times that you're actually in the office. Now you won't have, hopefully the way this would work and how they've done studies is you don't have to have a lot of people waiting there, waiting specifically for motor vehicle. Once you check in, you can actually put in your phone number, go to get lunch or go get coffee, and all of a sudden it'll text you, hey, you got some time. You have about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, why don't you come back? And so you don't have to waste your time sitting there waiting and hoping you don't get skipped. So that's the intent of the queuing system itself. And that's why I'm here before the board to ask for the October 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. We're getting away from the whole year contract there. We wanted to start fresh in the new year. So they agreed to allow us to do a 3-month contract from October to the end of December. And then the following would be from January to December 31st of the next year. So.
Okay, so this contract includes that kiosk?
So the first contract includes the kiosk. That would be a station inside of a motor vehicle, allowing you to push a button for what you're there for. If you're there for titles, renewing, whatever your instance would be, we'd have a few buttons there. You push it, and that would be the kiosk station. It also give you a screen showing where you are in the wait time and how long that wait time actually is. And one thing I didn't say is this: the actual software itself is ran from Amazon. So Amazon doesn't go down, and if they go down, it's for 30 seconds. So there's no gap in time, really, of when you put yourself in and put yourself out. It's all taken care of. If Amazon goes down, they go to another server in another state, and it kicks it right back up. So it does the same thing with this system.
So then, well, we'll talk about this when we get to the other one, but then I guess the kiosk, is it included in the second contract also?
You
It's
just pay
not,
for all
right?
the equipment in the first one,
first
and then we're paying
And that's
for
why the difference is.
the yearly contract with them.
So this first one is $5,067.50.
Correct.
Which includes the kiosk and the remainder of the year.
Includes all the equipment and the maintenance for the 3 months. Correct.
So that's, the 5,000 is pretty much the whole 15 months, right?
No.
No,
No?
so the equipment
No, it's
and the
3
3 months is on the first contract. That's the equipment. And then the full year of service is actually $6,600.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's the second
And that's
contract.
the second
Going to
contract.
All right, I got you.
Which doesn't include the equipment again.
And that maintenance contract also includes the text messages that are sent out to individuals who put in their phone number or use the app to actually put their place in line so that they can get text back.
So if the contract would begin October 1st of this year,
Mhm.
when would the process actually go live? Would that also be October 1st?
So once we get this in place and I get it to him, we're put into the queue to get everything set up. He said he'd get here as soon as he can, but he needs to sign contract first. I would assume that after the training and we go totally live, probably the end of October.
Okay.
There might be some proration there that we can talk with him about.
All right.
I really can't approve one and not the other.
Absolutely.
Well, we could.
Try it for 3 months and let it go.
We could. Any further?
Okay, any further questions or anything? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the first contract.
Sure, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the contract with QLES from October 1st, 2019 through December 31st of 2019 for a queuing system in the motor vehicle department in the amount of $5,067.50.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract with QLES from October 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019 for $5,067.50. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bell.
Aye.
Commissioner Payne.
Aye.
Commissioner McFall.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to the next one, which is another contract beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020 for the same QLES system.
So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract for QLES, January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, amount of $6,600 for what we talked about.
Second.
6,600 exactly, yeah. Justin, you told us where this money was coming from to pay for this. It's not coming out of your general budget.
So it's not coming out of my general fund budget. So with the state, and we actually get a set of reserved funds when we're asking for insurance. And when people don't have insurance, they end up going to court. We get a portion of that money back monthly. So I'm using funds out of that instead of out of our normal budget at the moment.
So restricted, we're talking about being conservative, so we're not just writing checks, is what I was getting at, I guess.
Absolutely.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 for QLES. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Payne?
Aye?
Commissioner Bell?
Aye.
Commissioner McFall?
Aye.
Motion carries.
With no further business before us, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It'll be kind of exciting.
Yeah.